Hi there, it's lovely to be with you again. I don't know if you have a sort of routine when it comes to bedtime. Perhaps you have a bath or a story with mum and dad or something of that nature, something that you do as a routine and it settles you down so that you're ready to go to sleep. Well, with my children, we used to have a regular pattern like that where we read stories. When they were little, these were my two eldest daughters, Rachel and Sarah. This was my little boy, Thomas. And this was my, at this point, rather grumpy little girl, Isabel. All of them are now grown up. They don't look anything like this, so you won't recognise them. But we used to have a regular routine where we used to read them lovely stories, including a wonderful book called Guess How Much I Love You. The book's illustrated by Anita Jerram, tells the story of a little nut brown hare and a big nut brown hare. And it's an amazing book which has a little phrase in it that we used to use every night. It's that I love you to the moon and back. And I used to say, kind of as a regular thing, night, night, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. But if they do, send them to the zoo. And then I used to say to them, I love you to the moon and back 1,000 million times. And that phrase, I love you to the moon and back, comes from this particular book by Sam Bratney. Guess How Much I Love You. And it was me saying to my children how much they were loved every day. Now, funny expression, the moon, I gather, is about 238,900 miles from the Earth. So to love my children to the moon and back meant I loved them 477,800 miles worth of love. And since the average driver drives less than 8,000 miles a year, that would have taken me just about 60 years of driving to cover, just for one of the expressions I gave them. And that's once to the moon and back, not 1,000 million times. That's how I was trying to express how much I loved my children. Now, when it comes to thinking about God, how do we understand his love for us? I came across a wonderful poem, which in a moment I'll read to you. It's by Steve Turner and it's called My Dad. My dad's bigger than your dad. My dad's as tall as the moon, as strong as the wind, as wide as the sky. You should see my dad. He's got stars in his fists. He bends rainbows on his knee. When he breathes, clouds move. He's good, is my dad. You can't scare him with the dark. You can't scare him with guns or sticks. He makes bullies say sorry, just by staring. Big green monsters fall asleep on his lap. Ghosts start haunting each other. My dad's been everywhere, but he says he likes the world. Earth people are fun, he says. My dad knows more than teacher. He knows everything. He knows what you're thinking, even when you try to trick him by thinking something else. If you tell a lie, my dad says he can tell, just by the look on your face. My dad's the best dad ever. I say I love him 1,000 million times. 1,000,000 million times, 1,000,000 trillion. But now my dad says he loves me 1,000,000,000 trillion times more than that. My dad likes to love. My dad made the world. Now I wonder who you think that poem might have been written about. I don't think Steve Turner, who wrote it, was writing about his dad like I was talking about my little children. He was talking about someone a little bit bigger, wasn't he? Somebody who bends rainbows on his knee. Someone's got stars in his fists. Yeah, that's right, he was talking about God. And he was talking about God as his dad, as his father who loves him. Well, there's a wonderful story in the Bible which tells us a little bit about what God is like. It's called The Story of the Prodigal Son. You can find it in Luke's Gospel and chapter 15. Let me read it for you. Story about a boy who ran away. Once upon a time, there was a boy and his dad. Now, one day, the boy got to thinking, maybe if I didn't have my dad around all the time telling me what to do, I'd be happier. He's spoiling my fun, he thought. Does my dad really want me to be happy? Does my dad really love me? The son had never thought that before, but suddenly he didn't know anymore. So eventually the son went to his dad and said, Dad, I'd be better off without you. I can look after myself. Just give me my share of your money. Well, you can imagine his dad was very sad that he said that. But he didn't want to force the little boy to stay. So he gave his son what he wanted. The son took the money and went on a long, long journey to a far-off country. And everything seemed wonderful and perfect for a while. He could go wherever he wanted to. He could do whatever he wanted. He could be whatever he wanted to be. He was the boss. He was free. Just sometimes, though, he got a rather strange, hungry, homesick feeling inside his heart. But then he'd just eat a bit more, or drink a bit more, or buy some more clothes, or go to parties until it all went away. But of course, soon his money ran out, and so did his friends. He ended up getting the only job he could, which was feeding some pigs on a farm. One day he was so desperately hungry that he even tried eating some of the pig food. What am I doing? He said suddenly to himself. It's as if he'd woken up from a nightmare. Ugh! What am I eating this for? Ugh! My father is rich, and here I am in a pigsty eating pig food. He wiped his mouth off and dusted himself down and said, I should go home. But as he started going home, he began to worry. Just think what I did to my dad. Wasn't I horrible to him? He won't love me anymore, will he? I've been too bad. He won't want me to be his son anymore. So he began to practice an I'm very sorry speech. All this time, what he didn't know is that day after day his dad had been standing on the porch of his house, straining his eyes, looking into the distance, waiting for his son to come home. He just couldn't stop loving him. He longed for the sound of the boy's voice. He couldn't be happy until he got him back. So you can imagine, the son came over the hill. He was still a long way off. But suddenly his dad saw him coming. What would his dad do? Fold his arms and frown? Shout, that'll teach you. Just you wait, young man, till I get you home. No, that's not how this story goes. Instead, the dad leapt off his porch, raced down the hill, through the gap in the hedge, up the road, and before his son could even begin his I'm so sorry speech, his dad ran to him, threw his arms around him, and couldn't stop kissing him. Let's have a party, his dad said. My boy's home. He ran away. I lost him. Come on, we've got him back. Let's celebrate. And Jesus told them, God is like that dad, the dad who couldn't stop loving his boy. And people are a bit like that son who said, does my dad really want me to be happy? Jesus told people this story to show them what God is like and to show people what they are like, so they could know, however far they run, however well they hide, however lost they are, it doesn't matter. Because God's children can never run too far or be too lost for God to find them. Let's just be quiet and close with a prayer. Dear God, thank you for love. Thank you for how good it is to have people who love us and people whom we can love. Thank you that your heart is full of unconditional love for us and for all those we love. Please be with us and keep us safe and protect us in this difficult time. Amen.